Hello, I'm Mike, Product Manager for Cantabular at the Sensible Code Company. Cantabular is a software framework for the protection and publication of statistical data, offering tools for flexible presentation of data and metadata, and for handling and protecting data. We've recently used it to republish the historic 1911 Ireland census, and the Office for National Statistics in the UK are using it to help with the protection and publication of the 2021 England and Wales census. We recently created a demo of our software for the International Conference on Establishment Statistics, using data for 4.9 million active UK companies from Companies House. In this video, I'm going to focus on part of our software that automates checks for disclosure risks, using a disclosure rules language we've created. This is our administration user interface that can be used to quickly create a query and experiment with different disclosure rules. I can create a query of local authority by incorporation year, and our software checks the table produced for each area. If it fails the rules, the table gets suppressed. At the moment, all areas are passing. If I take a look at the data, I can see that for each local authority, a large proportion of the counts for the local authority fall into one particular category. This skew or dominance might be something that I worry about from a disclosure perspective. So let's take a look at the disclosure rules for this dataset. At the moment, I just have a single rule in place, which checks whether the number of cells or rows in the table as a whole is below a certain threshold, in this case 100 million. Now I'd like to add a test for this skew or dominance problem that I identified earlier. So I can use a rule, like this one, that checks whether the marginal total for a particular category of a variable is more than a certain threshold, and fails if so. Now I've created it, I need to call it from my main table test function, like this, and pass in the threshold that I want to check against. If I save my rules, and then rerun my query, all of the areas that I've asked for data for are now failing. And I can confirm, using our diagnostics, that they're failing against this particular rule. Now I'd like to take a look at a different use case. If I construct a more detailed query looking at output area, which is a very detailed geographic variable, and adding in a classification of the company's activity, the standard industrial classification, I now have a table of 81 million rows or cells, which is very detailed, and as you might expect, the data is very sparse. We've got an awful lot of zeros. And again, this might be something that you worry about from a disclosure point of view. So taking a look at my rules, I can add in another rule that checks for this sparsity problem. And then I can call it from my main table test function. So if a table has more than 80% of zeros, it will get suppressed. If I save my rules and rerun my query, now I'm getting data for only 1,400 of the areas that I'm asking for. If I was happy tolerating a higher percentage of zeros in my table, say 90%, I could change these rules. And rerunning my query, I now get data for 8,700 areas. If I really wanted to understand these two variables across the whole of the country, I'd have to change to using a more detailed geographic variable such as local authority, and in this case I get data for all the areas. So that was a quick demo of how our disclosure rules language can be used to automatically detect disclosure risks on output tables using this example company dataset. Thanks for watching, and please do get in touch if you have any questions.